As long as you have hope, you can never truly be anyone's prisoner. Paul and Peter and some of the others in prison, what were they doing of despair? And there's probably, Philippians is called the book of joy, right? And it's completely written while Paul is in chains and in prison.
I'm doing this for God. I'm sacrificing XYZ because I'm doing it for the kingdom. But in my mind, and even other people were actually, gave me that attaboy, you're doing it for God, you're volunteering, you're building this, it's great. But in the back burner, they didn't realize that I was sacrificing my family, my wife, my kids.
Faith is what drives us, what keeps us. It's like if hope dies and if faith dies, everything else is lost. Everything else is done.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Operation Redwood. We are mid-conversation talking about faith. Is it the big steps that we're taking, the big risks that we're taking, the big missions that God is calling us, or is it the smaller things, the things that we're called to do daily, the things we're called to steward on a daily that may not be as sexy, that may not seem as exciting? And what does that mean? And what does it look like to be faithful? So Samuel and Chip were making great points, and I'm going to shut up and let them get back into it.
You have some great points too, always. But I'll jump in here real first and put this out there. As soon as you think you know what faith is, it's probably past you already, because faith is trusting and holding on to something that you don't understand. As soon as you grasp it and understand it, it's already fleeting. So it's
Yeah.
already gone. God, it gives us something else, like confirmation, or I'm not quite sure what word I want to put in there right now. But once you have faith in little or big things, and what we can talk about that in a minute too. If you are following that, if you are trusting in that, if you are doing what he calls you to do, you might get some result. Once you get that result, that's not faith anymore. That's something different. And we need that something different too, but it's not faith. So, does that make sense?
I'm digesting that. That's, when you first said it just a few minutes before recording, I, immediately I was like, what? Not that I was disagreeing with it, but I was trying to understand, so there's obviously levels to this faith. And Chip, you were saying something, if you don't mind repeating that, like with how this all relates, like the big things and the small things.
I mean, it's biblical, right? Because God talks about it like those that are faithful and little, like will be. I mean, we can't ask God for more when we can't even be faithful in the little things that we have. And you just pose that question, in the beginning, like, are we faithful? Or should we be faithful only with the little stuff or with the big stuff? But it's like, how can God move you to something bigger if, going back to the talents, right? Like we're not faithful even with the one that we have given or we have been given. And Sammy made a very good point and I think like I'm going to be a little bit more direct because I really liked what he said first, the way it came out, because it came out raw. And he said that, if you find out what faith is no longer faith, which is true, because faith is believing in something that you don't see, can necessarily like physically touch, you don't really understand. I heard this preacher talk about people have five senses, but a Christian has the sixth sense, which is faith.
Mm.
And faith is what drives us, what keeps us. Faith and hope, it's very biblical because, it's like if hope dies and if faith dies, everything else is lost. Everything else is done. Because faith is believing in something and trusting that it's God driving everything and all of that. And hope is hoping that one day we receive the crown of life, which, it's the end result of our hardship and of our labor. It's not that we can obtain it by our works. It's by faith alone, it says, right? Like our salvation is by faith alone, not by works. So nobody can boast, but it's already what's been done. So our faith in Christ, that Christ was what he has done, it's gonna be sufficient. And obviously it is, because no one can ever do what Christ did. That's why we put our faith in him.
So let me follow up with this question. What do we say, or what do you guys say to the person who is so dedicated to God's kingdom, right? That he's, and immediately it's a male, because I kind of look at it, the stuff that we've talked about, where this dude is just, he's driven, he's, volunteering, he's doing all these things for the kingdom, for this greater purpose. But then in the smaller things, he's like, well, that stuff can be pushed aside because of this bigger thing. And that's, you guys know my story, and I've opened up to you guys about this much more deeply than we're going to dive into now. But, there were so many times where I was like, okay, I'm doing this for God. I'm sacrificing XYZ because I'm doing it for the kingdom. But in my mind, and even other people were actually kind of saying, yeah, good job. Give me that attaboy. You're doing it for God. You're volunteering, you're building this, it's great. But in the back burner, they didn't realize that I was sacrificing so many, my family, my wife, my kid, so, it's these trying to be faithful with the big things, but then you're also like, I'm also letting go of the small things.
You can have an addiction to the church just as much as any other addiction. What I'm thinking about is from this book by, his name is Sky Jathani. I'm not into everything that he does, but I thought this book was really good. It's called With, and there are these different ways in which he describes our relationship to God. The one you're describing is for, right? Doing for God, right? And then there's like sort of living underneath him, like under his heel. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but the gist is God wants us to be with him. And pulling it back into this idea of faith, that's something mysterious, right? So how can you be with someone who isn't present, right? So it takes faith. I just have this idea too. It's not directly related to this part, but if we have faith, hope, and love, and those are often described together, ask you the question, and I'll answer for me. Which one do you think is most important, faith, hope, or love?
It's really funny that you're saying that, because I just read that. It said, and when Chip was saying it, that was one of the things that popped into my mind. If you don't have faith or hope, love is like the greatest one.
How about for you, Chip? Which one do you think is most important? And I mean, there's no like right answer per se.
I mean, I think for me, I think the driving factor out of all three, it is love.
So for me, and I'm not here to disagree with that, but for me, the most important is hope. Because if you don't have hope, you won't have faith or love. And I think hope takes the back burner. In Christian circles, faith and love are sort of go to and very important. But there's a reason Paul talked about hope. I think hope gives birth to all the rest. And what I see, going back to this idea about the five senses that Chip was talking about, in the work that I do, what Satan wants to do is destroy hope. Because if you kill hope, you don't have to have faith or love. So think about the world that we operate in. What is missing? Hope. There's a lack of hope. If you are invested in mainstream media and social influencing, and what the world is going to sell you is anarchy and hopelessness and despair. So without hope, you don't even have to. I guess I like putting it in the perspective. And yes, this is a fictional book, but C.S. Lewis wrote about like all Satan needs to do is sow doubt. But once you have doubt, then you don't have to fight that hard. So I actually look at hope as being the most important seed.
You changed my mind. That's really good. The way you described it, I mean, you are 100% correct. I mean, I know Paul talks about it like, you know, like with it being so important, but I guess explaining it like in first person, and understanding it. Yeah, you're 100% correct.
So what do we say to that believer that's like, but in the Bible it says this. It says love.
It does say hope though. Paul does talk about it.
Yeah. So my answer is without hope, you're not going to have faith or love. So it's not that they aren't important. Of course, they're all important. But without hope, you aren't going to have the seeds for the other ones. This comes from a children's book. What I'm about to add, it's from the Tale of Despero. I'm really big on hope. The type of therapy that I do is actually called. One of the things that we do is selling hope. We're hope merchants, and from this book, it says, as long as you have hope, you can never truly be anyone's prisoner.
Mm.
So think about Paul and Peter and some of the others in prison. What were they doing? They were singing and rejoicing, a place that's supposed to be desperate and places of despair. And there's probably, Philippians is called the book of joy, right? And it's completely written while Paul is in chains and in prison.
It's a story of it's slipping my mind. Man's Search for Meaning,
Huh?
Viktor Frankl,
Yeah,
right? Well, that was, that whole story of him being in the concentration camps and being able to, I'm pretty sure that's the one. I don't want to get my stories crossed up because there's another book that's very similar to it. But that idea, because he was like this, was he a psychiatrist, psychologist, something like that? And then he gets put into the concentration camp. And in the book, he talks about literally being able to pinpoint the person who's going to die next in the concentration camp.
right.
And just like you said, Sam, it was the person who lost hope.
That's right.
It wasn't even the person that was just tortured or just, starving the most, but it was the person that lost hope. And he said the people that survived the concentration camps were the people that were able to look further beyond the pain and the hell that they were going through in hope to see their loved ones again, in hope for better days, in hope to be free once again. And he could tell, like, oh, that guy lost hope. Like, that guy's going to go next.
Yeah. So think about it. What do we have? We have this hope in a future. Christians have that, and sadly, and I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I feel sad for people that aren't believers because they don't have hope, and it's why this world, in my opinion, matters so much to them. And Christians are kind of like, it's not right. We do need to take care of this planet, but the alarmist nature about everything that's happening here on this world. And I think Christians are more kind of like, I mean, this isn't my home. I want to take care of it, but we all know it's going to end anyways.
Yeah, I think it's crazy when you think about that. And going back to the beginning of this conversation of the big things and the small things, like, in order to really have hope in the big things, you have had to have confidence in the small things.
Yeah. And that's that. So coming full circle, that's that thing that I was saying, like when you practice faith, God gives you confirmation, right? So that's why we can hope. That's why we can hope in something that no one else sees or can understand. And people look at Christians like they're weird. Good, because you don't understand our hope. You can't
Mm.
possibly understand our hope because you don't have it. Right. And often that's labeled as being mean or insensitive. Like, okay, well, then label me as such. But you're welcome to have this hope. It's freely available to you, but you are going to be distraught in a way that Christians who are living faith in faith aren't. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that if you're depressed or sad and you're Christian, that you don't have hope or faith. I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's something different categorically about our hope and the world's hope. And by the way, a lot of what I'm saying right now is taken from a book by Ted Decker called The Slumber of Christianity. This idea that hope is what we need more of.
Mm. It reminds me of as we're preparing for this event in November. I've been on the phone with a couple people, not with the intention to, get them to the event or anything like that, but it just a couple of these folks are former business associates, and they're like, "Yeah, so what's been going on with you now, right?" And when I tell them what we're doing with Redwood and the nonprofit stuff, and um, a lot of their responses, which I was kind of picking up on this because I saw the pattern. A lot of their responses were like, "That's crazy. Like you're not what was the word? Basically like you're not pursuing business anymore where you're really relying more on your faith." And it's not they weren't demeaning me, and that's not what I'm saying. They were just like, "Dude,
Yeah,
that's
just
crazy." Like
shocked, probably shocked and surprised because it doesn't make sense to them.
exactly when I talk about the mission and what we're trying to do, and he's like, "So what are you selling? So what's your service? What's your and I'm like, "Not really selling anything. We're just trying to be faithful with this."
I'll tell you what you're selling, Angelo. Hope. All right. You're a hope
Oh,
merchant.
I'm a hope dealer.
Yes.
I'm a hope
Yeah.
broker,
There's a
right? But
church out
yeah.
here in my neighborhood that has have had that made on shirts, that hope dealer. Yeah. I mean, it's what should, in my opinion, set us apart from the world. Is like you look at all of this despair around you and you're singing a happy song. Like, I don't have much reason to worry, right? If you want to get caught up in that distress, and granted, I mean, I'm not here to sugarcoat. Yes, I get lost in worry and distress, but that tells me that I'm not living by faith.
Mm. And it's funny, right? Like with how important it is to surround yourself with people that will affirm these types of things. Because let's say I was thinking the way I'm thinking right now, and I was still back heavily into the business stuff. A lot of those people that, even if they were believers, I'd be like, that's actually crazy. Like, you're putting in all this time and you're not trying to, make a profit, or you're not trying to, to beef up your bank account. Like, how are you going to do that? Like, it doesn't make sense intellectually in their mind. And, you know, I could tell some of these guys were just not trying to say that, but they were kind of thinking it, and they're like, yeah, that's wild. They're like, yeah, I don't know if I could do that. And because I'm surrounded with very foundationally sound believers, I can lean into, okay, if this is really what we feel like God is calling us to, okay, that's no ands, ifs, or buts. This is what it is.
So if you don't have that, and I'm gonna ask you, Chip, not because I'm picking on you, but I know that this is something you found your way into here. If you don't have that, if you don't have people that are in your corner, how do you find them? How did you find them?
Somebody, and that somebody was David. Literally, man, that's a really, it got me thinking. Going back to everything, I mean, I don't think he knew what I was going through. I don't even think my wife knew what I was going through. But I saw the edge of the cliff, and I was getting closer and closer. And David, because of the friendship that we have, and it's been over 20 years, his radar picked up on things. And at that time, it's not like my wife didn't pick up on it, but it was also all those other outside factors that were weighing in on her too, because it wasn't just my father passing, it was so many things going on at that same time. And she just didn't have, I guess, the clarity to see everything what was going on. But David did. And all he did was he threw a lifeline out there. And he said, listen, we're meeting up on Wednesday at 6 a.m. via Zoom. I don't think there's anything for you to lose, maybe something to gain. Why don't you just come on Wednesday? And of course, contemplating with it, I mean, the whole time, I think like up until Friday, Saturday, I was just thinking like, I mean, this is dumb, this is stupid. Like, I try to make every excuse in the book, but I was also, was the last thing, now that I'm thinking about it, and that's why I said it, you're right on point, and I'm agreeing with you that hope is important, because I think that that was the last thing I was grasping on. I was hoping to find something that I can hold on to a little longer. I was hoping that something is gonna nudge me back off that cliff and is gonna like I'm gonna still see that cliff, but further and further and further away till one day, like I no longer see that. So I was hoping that I can anchor into something that it's is more stable than I am. And yeah, to my surprise, I came in and I guess the amount of love that was there and respect and the drive that you know I mean I know now, I mean obviously it was the Holy Spirit driving everybody, and even though like I knew in my heart, right, everybody's got problems, but yet they're showing up for each other. And for me, that's what gave me hope that I'm like, I want this.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Chip. And if I can add to this, I want to say, like, if you're out there listening, right? Because I mean, this is very important to all of us. If you're out there listening and you don't have a tribe, first of all, this one is welcoming. It may not be your cup of tea. That's fine, but I beg you not to give up. And while Chip was talking, when I was asking that question, I was thinking, I've been looking for something like this probably on and off for 30 years, right? So it may not be the first group that you come along. Don't give up hope, right? Don't give up hope. Keep looking because there's something inside of specifically a man's heart that resists connection.
Mm.
And there's something inside of a man's heart that is desperate for it. So you've got this war inside of you. Don't let the one side win. Don't let the side win that says give up and just do it on your own. One of the biggest lies, and every time I see it on Facebook, I confront it because I hate it. That saying that says no one is coming for you, that's a lie from hell. Jesus came for you. What the hell? Like, it's the biggest lie. This lie is no one's coming for you, and it sounds so tough and like inspirational. It's a lie straight from hell. Yes, Jesus came for you, and if you would only reach out, everyone around you would help you out. It's such a crappy saying. I hate it. Sorry to go off.
No, that's okay. And I'm trying to piggyback off what you said because it's also the other one that it's going on around when the same question is being asked of a man and a woman. And first they start with the woman, like, who do you call when you're down or you're having issues? And every single woman is saying, well, I called this person and that person. And then the man comes around and it's like, I call no one. I have no one. And for a long time, I went with that. I fell into agreement with that because even in that moment that I just shared, that's what I felt like I have no one. And yet I forgot, not that I forgot, but I was drowned in all of the problems and the holes that I kept basically falling in, realizing that Jesus conquered everything. I mean, he promised, he didn't promise a happy life. He promised a life full of tribulations, but he promised that he will be right there with us. And time and time and time and time and time and time again, he proved that he was there. So even if he wasn't to do anything else, it would still, or it should be enough, especially for somebody that has been through everything that I've been through, to know that he is enough, he is there, that he is our hope, that we do have a direct line to the Father through Jesus Christ. He said, ask anything in my name and it will be given to you. Now, be very careful. And I'm saying go ask the lottery numbers. No, it has to be something that aligns with his will. Because I know a lot of times when I heard that, ask anything in my name and it'll be given to you. And I'm like, and I'm thinking that I'm asking something after his own heart when it was always after my own heart. But that's what he's talking about here. Ask things that are after my own heart, and I will bless you with it. And every single time that I think that I've asked according to his will, it came through. So
I love that. I love that. It's a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. So what's the tangible step here, Sam? What's the next step for someone who is listening to this and they're like, yeah. And we talked about a couple things, touched on being faithful with the big things, being faithful with the little things, and the importance of surrounding yourself with like-minded folks who will push you. You know, if you're the average of the 5 people you're around the most, who are those people?
So it's just this. It's going to be pretty simple. It's just this. If you've been listening to this and you've been nudged in some way, take that step, right? It's that simple, right? And stop contemplating it. Stop thinking about it. Effing do it. That's faith.
Yeah. And exactly what you said, Samuel, earlier, do not allow doubt to creep in because doubt can keep you from taking that step.
Just do it. Just do it.
Be like Nike, just do it. Well said, boys. Well said. Well said.
All right, gentlemen.
I appreciate you, gentlemen. We'll run it back next week.
All right.
Later, guys.
Edward out.